this recording. Awesome. So this is the 3:15 early show for what we're going to be doing today is the full race night, backgate entry. We're going to create some lineups. We're going to connect to MRP Live, do results, points of payout, and printing checks. So be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions, Alt and H is the place to do that. We'll be doing the chat there. I will answer any questions that you have about anything we're going over today. I think I'm going to mix it up today. I get to pick what lineups I want to do. So I'm actually going to make this one a passing point lineup. It's going to be pretty simple, pretty straightforward, a lot of what you're already kind of used to. But we'll go over some other things as well. But we're just going to cover a little bit more ground, do something with passing points. So we have a race set up here today. I'm actually going to make one for tonight. So to do that, you can go into your schedule and add an event. To add an event, we'll go over this in some of the other webinars, but I want to make sure that we're doing that for today so you can follow along. You actually also will be able to see this inside of the app. I misclicked. Sorry, it's one of those days today. Let me tell you. Okay. So I've made an event here for today. And with that, it's going to want to know what we're going to do about pill draw and what we're going to do about transponders. Today, for this one, I'm actually going to skip out on using transponders to show how to do things a little bit more manually if you're not using those. We do have other webinars that went over MRP Live as well, and I'll also go over this at a specific point later because it does say we go connecting over MRP Live. But I'll do this one manually. I'll show how to connect to MRP Live as well. But I'm just going to do a little bit more free form today since it is Saturday, so we can have a little more fun with it. I'll keep the rentals. Why not? Whatever you choose here, we'll just determine the look here for the entry screen. So what the format I'm going to choose for today is I'm going to have them draw for a pill. I'm going to put that pill into features, so they're not features, into heats. So we're going to put that into the heats, and then I'm going to run them, and we're going to do passing points there. So we're going to line them up for the feature based on their passing points. Awesome. So let's get going here. So I'm going to go right into the entries, and I'm going to enter in some drivers. Here is the list of all of the drivers who have raced in this class before. I can switch classes right up here between my 305s and my 410s. So I can filter out my drivers here. I'll find them. So we got Biff Beef. And when we click on him, we can see a few things about Biff. So we have his picture in here. Seems like kind of a shy guy. We have his age. He has claimed his profile. We have his address on file as well here. So it'll print that on the check if we were to get that over to him. We have his owner in here. Looks like the webinars are getting paid for that. If he was to switch it, we can click here in this magnifying glass. We're able to see all of the owners he's raced with before. We can see all of our owners that have raced in the track. We can also add owners in here. So team and owner is going to be synonymous. It's going to be one-to-one. So if you look at it and it says team, don't worry, that's same kind of idea there. I am drawing pills. I'm having the system draw numbers for him. So be done there. And he also owns his own transponder. We have that number in here. I have it set to the owner as a default, so it'll pop that up there. I have a question if it has to be done for each individual class. So if he raced multiple classes, you would have to put in the owner for each one, because it is possible he could race two different people's cars, but it will keep track of the owner, and if you use the default, it will remember that. We also have the lineup override option right here. So with that lineup override, if let's say Biff just did not feel comfortable starting that close to the front, we could actually set him to the back of the heats or all races. So we could use this if he didn't feel comfortable starting up to the front, if he was late to the show, or if we just don't like him. Just move him all the way back. So that's what I'm going to do here. So he is checked in. He's good for the night. We can see other things about him in here, so we can edit the entry. We can also put in owner contact information. So if his owner said, I moved from when he registered with me, we could do that here as well. We also are able to, we could just, like I said, keep filtering this out, finding all the drivers that we're going to be having in this class here. But that's not the only way that we can enter in drivers. Other ways that we can do it is by doing the search up here. So we can search for a driver inside of the system. It's going to be biased because it is going to pick drivers that have raced with you first in here. So make sure you are searching by last names. You're also able to, if you absolutely cannot find a new driver, to create a new driver. I will mention though that you need to make sure that you're not duplicating a driver. So if Biff, his actual name is Trevor, if his name is Trevor Beef, and he shows up and he says his name is Trevor, but he's been Biff everywhere, we need to keep that consistent. Otherwise, it'll duplicate that driver, and we want to avoid doing that if at all possible. Duplicating drivers isn't the end of the world. It's, but it's going to cause issues down the line if you're using things like point averages. It'll separate his season points out, so it can cause a little bit of headache for you if you duplicate drivers without reason. Also, if you're a sanctioned track, if you create a duplicate driver on the spot, that driver won't have a license with you or with the sanction. It won't recognize that license exists because you just created him, which is going to create a lot more work for your sanction when it comes to things like licenses, because you'll have to manually bypass, and that'll make your sanction probably a little bit more upset with you than they need to be. So remember that as well. Another thing here too, on the topic of sanctioned events, if you are running a sanctioned event, it'll show right down here if they're licensed with that class. It'll also pop up a warning several different places if he's not a sanctioned driver. If he is not a sanctioned driver, there is going to be options down here to do a membership bypass or a temporary license, and those are different, and they make sure you're choosing the right one. Because if you use the membership bypass, let's say he has his receipt, he bought that 5:30, he waited till literally the last possible moment, and the folks just haven't had a chance to process that application, we put him in as a bypass, not a temporary. This helps with the accounting of things. I know I've had people in charge of sanctions really want me to make sure you all know if you're doing that, to make sure they're using the right one, because we have to go back in and correct that to balance everything out. So only use a temporary if they've purchased a temporary license from you. If they have bought a license before they've had time to process it, you use the bypass there. The other way we can enter in a driver is we can use the scan barcode. So this scan barcode is really handy. What's really cool about it is that it'll make sure that, well, one, it's faster than adding in a driver from the filter. All of the sanctioned drivers will have it, so they'll have that as part of their license. You can scan them in as the barcode, and it'll pull up the correct information for that driver every time. So a driver can only have one card per profile, so you'd use that same card everywhere. You'd scan him, you'd pop him in there, and then he'd be good to go. So it works out quite a bit better to do it that way. Saves a lot of time for you guys in the long run. So I highly recommend, I very, very strongly recommend the use of the barcode scanners there. If it isn't a sanctioned driver, that's okay. They can also get the MyRacePass app and claim their profile. You can see this gentleman has claimed his profile right here, that gold helmet, and that lets him do a lot of really cool things. But one of them is that on the app, he'll have a spot for that hard card. You can pull that up, and it'll scan him, and you can scan him right from his phone. And for some drivers, they're bound to lose cards anyway. So even if they have a license that has that card, definitely have them claim their profile. Does a lot of really cool things for them as well. I have a question about the cards. If they process for different classes, if Biff Beef was running a modified and a Gen X, so it actually doesn't matter. He would have one card for everything that he raced. So if he raced all the way down to, if you raced go-karts all the way down to every single class, you would scan him in with just that one card. So it does not make a difference what class he's running. It's just going to process to the guy. The real big reason is that makes it more flexible, so you don't have to keep issuing it. Let's say Biff here was 17 and he just started racing. He raced a hobby stock, and then he caught the itch real good, and he wants to bump up to a full-on stock car instead of a hobby. We won't have to reissue a card for that guy. He just uses that same card. And some people, I have met some drivers that have had cards with them for a long time. They've had some of those are battered and beat up. I've actually reissued some people some cards because I looked at them and I was like, I'll make you another one, because they had seen better days. So you have that option here. If you're interested in doing that, you can go into our knowledge base here, search for the barcode scanners, and down here we have a suggested one that we recommend right down here. This brings up the Amazon link. This guy, really, really good. You can scan that, scans phones amazingly well. It works very, very quick. Another way we can enter in drivers is to import from a previous event. So let's say we were running a 2-day show. Let's say I ran yesterday as well as today, and I wanted to pull in all those same drivers. I could do that and pull in their pills and their transponders to kind of save some time. So I'm actually going to do that here. Let's, I don't know, copy over. These guys qualified, so I'm going to have them do that. We'll copy over the pill, transponder numbers, pull all of them over. The last way we have to enter in drivers is a speed entry button. And what this will do is, as long as we don't have a duplicate car number or a duplicate transponder number, we will be able to just check them in. So I believe we have a duplicate transponder. Oh, yep, transponder here for Mr. Sushi. So I'm going to be entering in the last few drivers here. I'm going to keep it right at 10 just to keep with the transponder system. Keep that consistent there. I am using a demo mode for the transponders, so it will be using that. It is limiting me to just 10 drivers. You, of course, can use more if you want to. Highly encourage using more drivers here. Alt and H, again, I have seen some questions come through. Alt and H is the place to ask more questions. Don't be afraid to ask as many questions as you want. There's also you'll see that 2 down there at the bottom. If you hit that, you actually can select me specifically, and you can message me privately. And I will keep it private. It'll be just between us about that, so we don't have anything going there. So I won't ask away. This is your time here, so feel free to do that. So we're going to go into our races tab next. We're going to see all of our previous races that we have done in the past. So this goes up to 50 races, so you can see all the way back for me of May of last year. You can see all the different things that I've done before. I can do this. It'll copy it over exactly as we had it in the past. So if we were doing a different kind of setup or if it was special, we could copy that over from last year. We liked how we did it that way. It also shows how many entries we have. So let's say we have 10 entries, and I know every single time I have 10 entries, I run my races this specific way. You could do that. So you have that option to do it as well. So I'm going to add my races here. I'm just going to do one heat and one A feature. We can add in our laps and how many go to tech here, which I will do. So in the top 3 here to tech, it'll add that in. Normally, so for a lot of you, you might be used to doing the per race where it takes drivers out of each race. I'm going to use passing points today, so I'm going to do that from group. So if you're using passing points, you're going to do from group, and it's going to take basically from the pool. What I mean by that, let's say we had 2 heats here. So we had 1 and 2, and it was top. The best 5 in passing points went on automatically to the A. We would do that here. So 5 from group is going to give us the best 5 in our heat right there. If we did 5 per race, we're going to get 10 drivers, 5 here and 5 here. So make sure you're putting in those transfers. That's what when you're calculating for the A feature, it lets it know how many drivers need to go where. Makes things pretty straightforward for you. And we're also able to put in how many drivers per row are going to be. So we can do 1, 2, or 3 per row. We can rename these races if we need to. We can add sponsors to the races. We can do a lot in here. We're also able to add more races. So if I had more people show up and I needed to add a B, I could do that up here. Just put in my B feature. We can put in specials, hot laps, qualifying, a lot of other things here for you as well. You're also able to add more heats in here by clicking these buttons. You could add more A features in there. If you needed to add more A features, you certainly can do that too. So let's go into our lineup. We're going to calculate our lineup here. You can see that I have a smaller pool. This is every single lineup that we have. I've actually trimmed this down by going into the lineup settings right here. And I have selected the lineups that I'm more likely to use. Right there. We can calculate our lineups. Choose heat from pill draw right there. Calculate it. And you're going to see here I can pull up the report and it'll show me exactly why it moved all the drivers where I did. And then we had our one driver that we moved to the back. You can see that's denoted with that asterisk there. So it'll still remember, still keep track of him. We're able to share this to our social media pages from here. If we have a website through MyRacePass, it would update our website for us automatically. It's also going to update the MyRacePass app for you automatically as well. So as soon as we calculate those lineups, it is calculated and ready to go. And if you actually search for your favorite track inside of MyRacePass, inside the MyRacePass app, you're actually going to be able to see all of this as well. So you can see my lineups that I've done and all of those races there. I am going to do this one manually. So for this demonstration, I'm going to assume that I don't have a transponder system running right now. And I'm going to do a couple different ways of adding those in. So I could do any one of these. So if I had it, if it was a past race, we could upload a file. We could use MRP lives available there. We have the text option. We also can enter in the car numbers right here. Just type them, how they finished. The other way, I'll show you when we get to the A. We'll show you the other way, but you can click them through here. We're able to move drivers around if we need to. So if Biff Beef, that was a misclick, he should actually be there. We do that. We could also now set them as did not finish, did not start, disqualified, black flagged, and if for any reason they don't receive passing points, you can put no passing points there. So the driver that we moved to the back was Biff Beef. Since we moved him to the back, I'm going to remove his passing points. It'll still give him his finishing total, but it won't give him it won't give him the position points for passing 5 cars here. So we're going to go into our lineups. We'll calculate our lineups and we'll pull the passing point report next. So the passing point report, or the passing points, where that's going to pull from is this points pay schemes. Right here we have our lineup points. I've set up a few of these already. You can see here I have a few already set up. These are from the global point schemes. So we have some WSOTA passing point schemes, the ASCS passing point schemes. It's right here, the heat passing points, USMTS. Those are pretty common options that I see a lot of folks use. I'll go into this ASCS one so you can kind of see what this looks like. It's going to be pretty similar to what you'd be used to for applying championship points. And the way that it's going to do this is that this is the position, so where they finished, it's going to give them that, plus 5 points for every car that they passed, and minus 1.5 points for every car that passed them. So it'll take those finishing totals and it'll calculate that out. So for example, if you started second and finished first, you end up with 100 for finishing first and 105. All of the other schemes work exactly the same. So you'll see this chart, that'll be where they finished, and then it'll pluses and minuses there. If you have any questions about setting up passing point schemes, don't be afraid to reach out. If you have your own special one, you'll be able to see that here. You can also tell if you had this in a chart. You might see some folks use a big chart that'll have started and finished. You'll actually just look at the line of if they finished exactly where they started, and that'll be where you can see this here. You can kind of visualize it. So that kind of diagonal will be these numbers if we were using that and had it in a chart. We'll calculate our lineups. We have a lot of different passing point lineups already in here. So the big difference between all of these passing point lineups, you can see we have heat passing points, ties to low pill. We have one for season points, lowest heat. All of these are going to use the same passing point scheme that I set up. It's just going to change the way that it breaks a tie. So in this case, I'm just going to have it break a tie based on who drew the lowest pill. I have multiple passing point schemes, so it's going to make me pick one. I'll do that. Calculate it out. We'll have a how is this calculated, and you can see here, based on that, we'll have all of our points listed out. It'll tell us if they're disqualified, anything like that. We'll have those right there. We also can pull a report here. We will always have that passing point report right here inside of our reports. So we can pull in a report for every single class to show this. This one will have the race order and things as well. If you have any questions about anything that I have been doing, Alt and H is the place to do that. We'll probably do another race night as well. We'll probably add another full class in and use MRP Live for that. We'll do that here in just a second. If you have any questions about that, or if there's anything you'd like me to see me do, Alt and H is the place to do it. So we have our A feature here. We're going to do the other way of entering in our driver. We have done that. We can set everybody up here. We are good to go. We'll save it. It is saved. It's ready. Now we can go to points/pay, and we can apply the points and pay that we've created. So I've actually gone in and added in a few other points and pay schemes. So you'll select those. It'll remember the most recent ones that you've done in the past. So those are available. We have options here to apply them to the driver themselves, to the owners, to the teams. We also can check drivers as ineligible right here. So calculate that out. From here, we can do adjustments, so we can manually adjust if we need to. We're also able to create payments down here at the bottom. So we can create payments. It'll change it over to those owners for us. From here, we can create checks. So it'll use that check. I'm going to do the three wide kind of style here. So let's do that starting check. Understand. It's good. It's going to create that. Even if you don't create checks, do go in and do the create payments. That'll work towards the end of the year report. You don't have to switch everything over for the type or anything like that, but just create those payments. We also can export to this to QuickBooks from here. We're good to go with that. Let's say here, we'll go into our results and someone gets disqualified. So our leader, Mike Trout, got disqualified. The points will still keep him where he was at. The points work as a kind of like a snapshot, like an old camera. So when we did that, it took a picture of where everyone was when we calculated it. To fix it, we'll just need to recalculate it here. We'll choose the same one, basically like us taking a new picture, and it'll remove Mike's points in here. So he's lost his points for being disqualified. It's got everything where they need to be. We're also able to, we'll go back in and we'll create payments again. I've already printed out the check, so I'll need to void out those the check for Mike. So we'll void him out. And we'll also correct his amount that he was paid. So correct that here. It'll update it. And then we're able to create those checks here for Mike, if it changed his total here. So that would be a real quick night of racing. Also, if you are with Soda Track, they wanted me to let you know. Too, if a person is disqualified and for conduct reason loses all their points, to uncheck this box here, that'll completely remove all points for that driver. So he will receive 0 points total across everywhere. You can see him right there. So Alt H is the spot to ask any questions. I have seen some questions come in. I will get to those. So I had a question about how to line up a B main. Calculating a B main will be the same as calculating an A. We'll just set up our B feature. In this case, I'm going to send nobody to the A, and I'll send everyone to the B. And we have to set who's going to go from B to A. Go into our lineups. We have our B feature right here. Again, it's going to be, I can just select the lineup that I'm going to use. If I wanted to do the B feature from passing points, I could just do that. Select the passing point that I would like to use. It'll calculate those out. If we had more drivers to where we needed to separate it out, so if we wanted to do top 3 from group, rest to the A feature, we could do that. So it'll send 3 drivers to the A automatically, the rest to the B. We'd calculate that B. And then we could just set it per race from the B, and it'll line them up right on the back. So we'll have to finish the results for that B, and then it'll line them up for the A. So it'd be the same process to calculate a B feature based on passing points. You'd select the passing point option that you'd like to use. You just make sure that you have drivers going to the B. You're using the from group, and then it's good to go. Let's take a look at MRP Live. We'll do another race. We'll use that with MRP Live, and we'll add in a few other things here. So let's get my computer open up here. I'll launch from web. So I'm going to match up some things here. So for Westhold, we're going to match up the IP address right here. We're going to match up the TCP IP port, so it's here. We're going to make sure this enable network is selected. That's going to make sure that it's broadcasting out how we need it to. Inside of Race Manager, there's an assign folder. So that assignments path is going to be inside of your computer. So for me, it's in the C drive. That's where I saved Race Manager. We also have the MRP Live code. We can hit launch from, when we hit launch from web, it'll copy over that code, but that's what connects it to today. So we'll connect it over. It's connected, and then we can send lineups. I'm going to delete some of my old lineups here. You can see them. And we'll enter in another class. I'm just going to do it, the 305s here, and I'm just going to do them speed entry. So I'm just going to quickly add in everybody. All right, I'm going to enter in my numbers here. Then we'll save it. A good point in chat. Also, make sure that you have the most recent version of MRP Live. What I'd recommend you do, if you're not sure, just re-download the application right here inside of MRP Live. You can see that right down here. Just re-download it, upload the latest version. We have actually updated quite a bit. So if you haven't raced since the fall or the winter even, we have updated it. We have changed a few things. Nothing major. It's still going to be, the same system, but we've done a lot of things in the back end, a lot of other changes there. So we want to make sure that you're using the correct version for that. Passing points, asked if they could be used for a special only. They can be used for however you want to do that. Some people have their entire shows, entire season are all based over passing points every single night. Some people only use them for specials. So I was just trying to cover for that because there are tracks that use passing points every single night. They use their passing point scheme. So we'll add in more races. I'll show off here. This is that import there. So I've imported everything over, and it's done that, got it all taken care of. And we'll go to our lineups. I'm going to calculate those lineups. We'll do heat from pill draw again. This is where we're going to send our lineups over. So we'll hit send lineups. And when we do that, inside of Westhold, you see it's blank, so I have to move back here. It'll pop up all those in. We can go into our heats, and we can see the timing here, part of it. So this is what fans would see if they have MRP Live. You can see it's picking up based on that transponder data, everything that is going on. If I'm using transponders, I like to have this screen up and ready to go. Just so I'm making sure the connection's good and this is what everyone would see. So I'm making sure that's already. If we did a flag change, so we put in a caution, it'll show that. I put it into 5. Um, and it's good to go there. So we'll stop it. As soon as we hit stop, that's going to they'll let the system know that it is good to go. Give me 1 sec here. Alrighty, we'll go in here. You can see I have a latest pending race. Have everybody in, and we are good to go again. Let's switch it up. So this is probably not something that you guys will be doing in the middle of the race, is switching in between the 2 different transponder systems. But I will do that thing. Connecting to orbits is going to be pretty similar. There we go. Let's get this guy back. So to connect to orbits, we'll have our scoreboard settings here. It'll be enable scoreboard feed. Make sure that's selected. We're going to switch to orbits. Make sure that's good. Again, the launch from web, that's going to be exactly the same. The IP address and the TCP IP port, that's going to be the ones there. We're going to be doing. And then for the assignments path, this one can be anywhere that you'd like it to be. For me, I put all of mine inside of a folder on the date that I'm going to be racing so that I have everything kind of organized. So we'll connect it, be connected, ready to go. I'm going to go into our lineups. We're going to calculate our lineups. I had a good point about the lineups, by the way. Yep, if you are a sanctioned track by WISSOTA, you do have to use the WISSOTA lineups if it is a WISSOTA show. So you do have to use those for the rules. If it is a special event, you can line that up however you'd like. If it's a non-sanctioned event, you can also line that up however you so choose. But if you are a sanctioned track, you do have to line it up based on the rules of your sanction. So please do that. There, I'm gonna pick just the straight up lineup. We have our A feature here. From here, we can send lineups. So it'll say the lineups are sent. And inside of here, we'll import our groups and runs. We'll find our folder, find the runs, and there it is. So for you, you'll just run the race as normal. For me, I have to use the track simulator here. But you'll actually see, again, same thing. We'll get the cars going around the track, go into our timing, let's start it. And then it's good to go. So that goes over everything I was going to do today. If you have any questions, I'm going to leave it open for questions for now for the next few minutes. Alt and H is the place to do that. As a note, I do have another one of these set to go at 5:30, so in about an hour and a half or so. So I will be able to. I'll see you all then. If you want to join me for that one, you're more than welcome to do so. gosh. So march up the 2-day race. If you need to do that, depends on how you're going to set up that 2-day race. Um, so what I had told you before would still apply. So we would have done the passing point report, pulled up everybody, and then had them transfer over using the import from previous event. Would have imported them over to the next day, and then we would have set them up manually. But that was how you would have done that. For a lot of people, they have different kind of setups for 2-day races. So if you have a specific question about a 2-day race or how to set those up, it'd probably be for the best to do those individually. Best way to set up twin A main feature events. Awesome question. So let's assume that this race right here was a 2A feature event. So let's just end it here. Oh, yeah. So we'll stop the simulator. We'll stop that here. Same thing applies. We're going to hit that stop button. That's going to let us know that the A feature is done. So if we go into our races here, we can actually add another A feature. And depending on how we set this up, so let's pretend that last race didn't happen. And we'll go into our lineups for our A feature, and I'm going to clear this out. So again, something that you're not going to do often, I imagine, is go back in and change it to run 2A features. But we'll go into our lineups. If you are running 2A features, you have this option here to only calculate the first A feature. So if I have this, I can calculate the first A feature based on my heats and Bs, or however I wanted to do it. It'll copy those over to only calculate that first one. We'll pop in everybody for our first A feature. We can go back to our lineups and then calculate the lineups again. So now it'll only calculate the second A because the first one is done. And we can do that however we wanted to do it. I believe there's a lineup in here that'll calculate it based on the second one. Yep, A feature 2 from A feature 1 results, for example. So if I was running 2, pops them in. This one has an invert. So if I wanted to invert the best 5, kind of mix it up, could. There it goes. We also have the option to invert here. We also can do redraws from here. But we'd pop into the results, do our A feature. And then you can apply the points and pay. And when you apply those points and pay, it's actually going to double up because it has 2A features. So it'll keep them kind of separated. Oh, sure. Yep. So I have a suggestion to show inside of here, this points option here. So yeah, this is something I use a ton. So if anybody asks me questions about things or to double check people's points or things like that, I use this points page a lot. You'll have one too. So this is all my points and pay per schedule. You can see my schedules right here. You can see my classes right here. So we can take kind of a deep dive and see what's going on here. So with Chuck Ground, I can click on him. You can click on him and see where every single point he acquired was up to today's event. So we can see that. This is why he has the points that he does here. So if I notice here that I have 78 points here, we can see that this is higher than it should be, and we can kind of take a look at it. And we know that that's something we might have to correct. We have the option to refresh the public points here. So what that will do is, let's say something like that happened, I made a mistake, I doubled up points that day, and I need to get it refreshed to the app. So the app's going to look for when people apply points, but it's going to, because points tend not to change too often throughout the week, it's going to keep that kind of dormant there to make sure that the page loads faster for you. But you're able to refresh the public points right there if there is a change, and it'll refresh them, and it will kind of send a note that we need to update that now. We're also able to view the standings of as of a certain date. So if I wanted to see how everyone was on Sunday, you can see that we had a leader change here. And we also can see why or where the events came from. So you can see here's my included events. So these are events that is all included into this total. And these events here, we can see that they're not included. So they're not, there's no points here, even though there's entries. So if you notice that your points seem off and they seem lower than they should be, this is another thing to check here. If you have non-point events, events that are included in the schedule, but for some reason don't have points applied to them, are going to show right here. That would be the spot there. If you have any other questions, Alt and H is the spot to do it. This is your time for questions. Be doing those here for a little bit more. Also, I can take down attendance for everybody now if you would like. Please put in your name and what track you are with, and I will include you in the attendance. And again, as a reminder, I am doing another one of these at 5:30. So here in just a little bit, we'll be doing another one of them. So how do you transfer points to USRA? If it's a sanctioned event, same with WSOTA, it'll just go there. So USRA points, if it is a sanctioned event, if you choose the correct class, they will sanction it. That's where it'll keep track of all the license information. When you apply the points, it sends those to USRA and to WSOTA if it is a WSOTA event. So it sends to the right sanction. Yep, that's great questions here. Making sure I didn't miss any. Yep, feel free, Alt and H spot to ask any of those questions. Leaving it open here for the next few minutes, or as long as people have questions, I will be here to answer those questions. The later webinar will be similar. I'm going to be going over a lot of the same information. I might change it up depending on what people ask for. So kind of like how I did the two A mains because someone asked for it. I'm probably not going to go over that unless someone asks for it again. Little differences like that, but it's the same basic idea. We're going to be doing full race night, backgate entry, creating lineups, MRP live, results, points and payout, printing checks, and common questions. So a lot of good stuff there. And again, that's in about an hour and a half. So I think I will probably end up getting an early dinner or a late lunch. Depends on how you look at it. All right. Yep. And if you need to review this, this will also be on YouTube. probably on Monday, maybe a little before, depends on how fast this encodes. Um, we'll get that updated and everything, and it'll be there for your viewing pleasure. Otherwise, it's been great speaking with you guys. Hope to see you on the next one here in about an hour, and have a great rest of the day.